Welcome back to another Reaper blog tutorial. This is what's new in Reaper 7.66. This is mostly an update that adds FFmpeg support. So we've had FFmpeg very basic support kind of forever for basic video and audio decoding. You can add on to that to get more features with the FFmpeg version 4 shared. And now they're supporting version 5 up to version 8 and probably beyond. And this has unlocked a whole bunch of new features, including hardware decoding and encoding. Yeah, tons of stuff. More great video features. Let's start off with one small action that I think is worth your attention. Action to select items under mouse, respect selecting items selects group setting. So you may not be aware of this function, but I'm a big fan of it. So the action is, I have this assigned to the letter I, select item under mouse. There's some other variations of this, but I really like this one. So I tap the letter I and I can select an item that's under the mouse. It's very quick to select things, and unlike clicking the item, the edit cursor doesn't move. So it's great to, let's say, I want to snap this item to bar 29. I can select it. I can run another action to snap it, like that. Or let's say I take this one, I cut and I paste, and it goes to bar 29. I didn't have to click on it, I didn't have to drag it, and I never lost my edit cursor position. So this is something I use a lot. There was always one little sort of bug with it that always bothered me, and I had to create my own sort of variation of this. But now, if I group these items, right? So they're grouped, they move together when I drag and stuff, and this grouping icon in the main toolbar is enabled. Now that action actually respects that button. So if I turn that off, I can select one, or when this is on, I can select both. So this is fantastic. So let's just do one, and I will move that one to the edit cursor, just like that. And if these were on, if grouping was on, they would both move. So a very simple update, but I think more importantly, you now know about this great action, which I suggest you set to the letter I, select item under mouse cursor. This is so helpful for editing. Regions and markers. Support importing regions and markers from CSV file by dragging into Region Manager window. Hold Shift to merge. Support importing regions and markers from Reaper project file.rpp. So this is pretty cool. Let's start off with some markers in this project. So there's 3 markers, and I'm going to get rid of these ones. So there's 3 markers. Let's add 1 region as well. Okay. We'll go to View menu, Region Marker Manager. In this window, I'm going to go to Options, and we can export. And so let's just go to the desktop. The file format here is comma separated value files, CSV. Hit Save. If I'm in a new project tab, which looks like this, and it's got its own region marker manager. I've got 2 markers that are just automatically added to every project based on my default project template. Let's go to desktop. I've got my region markers. I can drop this in. If I just drop it, it's going to replace, right? And I can undo that, I think. Yep. Or if I hold down Shift when I drag it in, it's going to merge. It's going to add those new markers to this project. Very cool to be able to do both of those things. I'm going to close this project. And back to this original project, let's go to Options and then Import, Merge with Existing. And in this case, I'm going to grab one of my audio projects. Not sure what markers are in here. Yeah, but there's a couple. Outro start was added, and this end marker. So yeah, just simply selecting a project file allowed me to do that. Just dragging in an RPP allows you to do that as well. That's pretty sweet. Let's actually take a video project. Let's take a published video because I know that there will be markers in this one. Let's take this, drop it in. All those markers and regions got added. So that's a really cool feature. Yeah, being able to import markers from another project, that's really cool. Yeah, fantastic. So now you know how to export markers as well as import markers from a CSV or from a Reaper project, replacing the markers within your target project or merging with what's already there. Add support for FFmpeg versions 5.0 to 8.1. Add support for ALAC, Apple lossless decoding. Add support for AV1 encoding. Add support for H.265 encoding. Add support for hardware accelerated decoding. This is opt-in. And add support for multiple audio streams. And this is also an opt-in function. Improve FFmpeg loading. Allow loading from more system paths, as well as Reaper's user plugins path. And when changing video decoder priority list, prompt to reopen all media in order to use new decoders. So I think these are all great features. Let's just do a new project to clear this out. There we go. So I've actually already recorded how to install this on Windows and Mac. I will put them after this section. So this is the last section of what's new, and then I'll have how to install on Windows and then how to install on Mac, but I'll cover what you can do with it here. So I've got FFmpeg installed, and I can verify that it is installed by going to Video Decoders. And I can see that in this case, it's found it in the Homebrew folder. And these are all the different folders that Reaper will search for: the user plugins folder, the within the Reaper app itself, the lib folder, the Homebrew library, the local library. It's going to search more places than it used to. But in this case, it found it. FFmpeg is available. And so I can use this as the CPU version of this decoder by just typing in FFmpeg. If I want the hardware decoder, I would type in _HW, and then it will use the hardware decoding. The hardware decoding, at least on Mac where I've tested it, I found it's a little laggier than the other AV Foundation decoder or VLC or FFmpeg, the software version. So, just experiment, find what's the best option for the types of files you use, your particular system, all that stuff. We can also type in FFmpeg MTA, and that's multi-track audio. This one's going to be opt-in. You have to type that in because this is a function that could mess with previous projects. So let me just show you what that looks like. And also, when you apply this, you get this new pop-up window. It'll look a little different on Windows. Video decoder priority list has changed. Would you like to close and open all media in the project in order to use the new decoder? This could interrupt playback or recording, so be careful when choosing yes. And I'm not recording, I'm not playing back, so let's hit yes. So now Reaper is using FFmpeg software decoding with multi-track audio. I can import an old project here. So let's take a raw recording from OBS, import that in, and this starts bringing in all the different audio streams that were embedded in that original video. In this particular file, the first stereo pair is just my voice. The second stereo pair is just desktop audio or audio that came out of Reaper on a separate track into OBS. And then the third track is my voice plus the desktop audio plus any alerts. If I was streaming, that's the signal that would go out to the stream. You might have that in the opposite order. I just set it up like that and kind of stuck with it. All three of those channels are available now. This will play back as a 6-channel audio file. Let me bypass the main output and I can play this. And if we look in the mixer area, we can see that there's audio coming in on channels 1 and 2 and 5 and 6. So this is different than like a multi-channel WAV file. Reaper would handle that no problem. This is actually different layers of audio within the video file. Prior to this update, or without enabling MTA here, it's going to need a new peak file. Let's rebuild peaks. And prior to this update, prior to selecting the MTA option in the decoder priorities, it would only show up with the very first audio track. On my Mac, I'm not sure if FFmpeg has an advantage over AV Foundation or VLC for playback decoding, except in the situation of the multitrack audio. That's a unique feature of the FFmpeg MTA option here. So if you want to have the multi-stream audio accessible within Reaper, that's the way to go. But otherwise, for Mac at least, I think I'm going to stick with AV Foundation and VLC as my decoder priority. So I would do VLC colon MKV and then AV Foundation. Basically for everything else. That's my preferred function. MKV VLC works great with decoding files out of OBS in general, as long as you don't need the multitrack audio. And then AV Foundation handles 4K footage from my GoPros. Great. I'll add FFmpeg. So if these two can't load something, FFmpeg will. But if you're on Windows, you might not need VLC anymore. WMF is a good option, but you might be able to just take FFmpeg and have that as your only entry in the video decoder priority, and you're good to go. I think it's definitely the best option for exporting. So let's look at exporting right now. So when we're done with the video and we want to render this, we'll come up to File, Render to File, and then we go to FFmpeg as our encoder. With the FFmpeg encoder, this is the same on Windows and Mac. You've got H.264, H.265, AV1, MPEG-2, Motion JPEG, or you could have no video. AV1 is a very efficient codec. 265 is also a very efficient codec. 264 is kind of the standard. It's what your camera shoots most of the time. 265 is what iPhone uses, and high efficiency codec. Want to make sure that we have a pretty high bit rate, like 12,000, and we can enable hardware encoding here. I'm on an M1 Mac here, so I don't have that option, but you might want to use this high quality or the small size option or all keyframes. I'm just showing this because these are new features. And now I'll show you how to install FFmpeg on Windows and on Mac. All right, so we're going to start off installing FFmpeg for Windows using winget. This is a Windows package manager made by Microsoft, so it's safe. They have a GitHub, and I will link it in the description of this video. And so when you're on the GitHub page, look for the release section, and then we'll grab the latest M6 bundle, what we're looking for. We'll save it. And when it's finished downloading, we're going to go to our downloads folder and double click to install. Because I already have this installed, it's telling me I can't install it, so we'll just hit close. And now we'll open up Terminal.
Time to hack.
You can also use command prompt. I have PowerShell installed here, which for what we're doing doesn't have any benefits. So what we'll do is type winget space install quotes FFmpeg bracket shared bracket end quote. And this will just take a few minutes to run. It shows its progress. It shows what it's doing in the background here. So it found the FFmpeg full build shared zip file. It's downloaded it. It's starting to run the installer, and it's done. So less than a minute total. So that gets you FFmpeg installed. Let's go back to terminal, and if we want to just verify the FFmpeg version, it should be FFmpeg-version, so we can see which version of FFmpeg is installed, and we can see 8.01. Going to Reaper, and if I go to Reaper's preferences and the video page and show decoder information, I can now see that FFmpeg it says V62. That's the encoder that it uses. It got it from this folder, from the winget folder. We just have to enable FFmpeg hardware or any of the other FFmpeg features there in the decoder priority. So here are the new FFmpeg encoder options, meaning when you're rendering a video. So when you select this, it will automatically go to MPEG-4 and H.264. And most likely that's the setting you're going to choose. And for video codec, we've got H.264, H.265, AV1, and let's just choose H.264. So if you're doing a YouTube video, it's usually that format. Let's give it a nice big bit rate. So let's say 16,000, pretty big. And for options, we can click this plus button, and there's a few sort of presets here. If you have an NVIDIA card, you can use NVENC, and so we'll just click that. So, and this will use your video card for the rendering, which may speed it up a little bit. In my quick testing of this was a few percent faster than using the CPU version of the encoder, just without NVENC there, and also a little bit faster than the Windows Media encoder. All things being equal, they should look the same. It's just a matter of resources or speed being the difference here. FFmpeg gives you a few more options. There's this higher quality setting, there's this NVENC setting, and you can sort of layer them like that. Installing FFmpeg on Mac is very similar to the process on Windows. Instead of winget, we're using Homebrew. So I will link to the install instruction. All you really need to do is grab this code here. Again, this is a package manager. It's open source. It's well documented and well tested. We're going to open up terminal.
Time to hack.
And we're going to paste in that code there, which is just basically download this and install it. Right away, it's going to ask for a password. So you won't see your password being typed in, but it's there. All right. And so it's telling you what will be installed. You press return, enter to start. So this just takes a minute or two to complete. It's pretty quick, and you'll see the progress as it's going here. And it's done. And so the next step is getting FFmpeg via Homebrew. And in this case, it's simple brew, BREW, space install, space FFmpeg. And it's done. And if we want to check that which version of FFmpeg is installed, it's FFmpeg space hyphen version. So we can see that 8.1 is installed, which is the latest version at the time of recording this. I was going to show you how to uninstall Homebrew after you're done installing FFmpeg, and then I was going to show you how that you could open up Reaper and see FFmpeg, and then I realized my mistake. So unless you specifically install FFmpeg to a different folder, different path via Homebrew, it's going to put it into the Homebrew folder, and then when you uninstall Homebrew, it takes FFmpeg with it. So I'm back to installing Homebrew and FFmpeg a third time. So that's it for this tutorial. There are some more things in the changelog. I think it's worth going through that. Little tweaks to regions and markers and mouse modifiers, mostly little fixes, but I think there might be some things that could affect you. You're just gonna have to read through that. And if you missed any of the previous Reaper update videos, there will be a link to the playlist down below going all the way back to 5.0. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Blue Sky. Support the Reaper blog through Patreon and visit reaper.blog for more tutorials.